I don't normally get requests, but when I do them. This is a request from YouTube user Giovanni San José, requesting me to do Dawn of War DarkCrusade. More about that later on. Roll the intro. Shit, that's not what I wanted to do. That was my old campaign. We want to go in new campaign. And I actually don't know what I'm doing. Yay! Off to a great start. Would you like to save your current campaign? No! So we already seen the intro before. If you want to take a look at that, then just take a look at my Tau campaign's intro. We're going to be playing Necrons this time. More on that later. Roll the intro.
The Necrons had lain buried in the sands of Cronus for eons, having retreated there at the end of a great war only hinted at in the histories of ancient races like the Eldar. Long before man even stood upright, the Necrons and the Dark Gods had retreated to their tomb worlds. But their slumber was not eternal. Eventually their genocidal deities awoke them again, driving them to purge the life that had spread across the galaxy during their sleep. On Cronus, this awakening came when an archaeological team opened a mysterious crypt on the arid Thor Abyss Plateau. Most of the team died, but expedition leader Thomas Maccabee somehow became one of the mysterious Necron pariahs. Seemingly retaining a hint of his personality, he occasionally spoke for the Silent Army as it advanced. The Necron Lord of Cronus, the most ancient and powerful of the deathless creatures on the planet, promptly launched a campaign of extermination. His loathsome god, the Nightbringer, hungered for the deaths of all those on Cronus.
So basically, the Necrons is the race that I first played when I got the game. I eventually transitioned to Tau, and that's basically where I ended up right now. We don't need this, we're not noobs. So a little bit about what I'm going to be doing right now. This is probably the only skirmish I'm going to record, unless of course there is requests for me to record all the skirmishes. What I'm going to be doing is going through the campaign as Necrons, since I already did Tau, and it's kind of pointless to do Tau again. Now, Necrons is the first race that I played, so I guess it is my second most familiar race. I also know a little bit of how to play Eldar, although that's relative considering how I've never actually played a game against people. Only ever did comps. So what I'm going to be doing right now is I will be... Actually, I think it's generator first. I forgot how to play this. I will not be using any campaign things. Like, I will not be using any of the campaign special areas. I will be using the special units that come with the commander, because if you don't, then it's kind of impossible to finish the campaign. Now, in the strongholds, they do attack you rather early with a lot of units, so if you only start with this monolith, you're not going to be able to get out enough units in time. So that's what I'm going to be doing. That's part of the, I guess, challenge set out for this campaign playthrough. I also will be playing on hard because, well, it's kind of part of the request as well. But what else is there to say about this? Necrons, the race themselves, have excellent infantry units, but they kind of have really shitty tanks, which is kind of annoying. Now, in a campaign, the computer will always have more units than you, they'll have better upgrades, etc. Of course, I'm talking about these strongholds. Now, normal games are just like normal games, so it's kind of pointless to record any of it. Now, in the stronghold missions, what I'm worried most about is the forward-based special ability gotten from the forward-based ability from Hyperion Peaks. that's kind of annoying to not have because it does give you the ability to set up defensive turrets and also to give you a boost of production so you can start getting those high-tech units a little bit earlier. Another thing that I'm a little bit worried about is, of course, the increased manpower. That's going to allow us to get a little bit more units to sort of counteract the fact that the opponents do have a lot more units than us. And those are basically the two biggest handicaps. I'm not exactly worried about the defensive garrison stuff and any of the other units. I guess the third one I'm a little bit worried about is the Fury ability that allows us to attack twice. That's going to be a little bit useful because we move relatively quickly, or comparatively quickly compared to our opponent, so we'll be able to defeat a lot more strongholds early on if we have that ability. So if we don't have that ability now, it would appear as if the strongholds are more difficult because they will have that time to build up their strength. Now in terms of the Necron playstyle, Necrons do have really great infantry, but their tanks are really shitty. That's sort of just to balance out the fact that you kind of don't need anything but the infantry. But it does have the problem that, oh shit, well they're attacking for one. It's one problem. But I do have my warriors out, so I'm going to get those right into battle. They do have the problem that it is very difficult to break through strongholds. Normally how I play my Necrons is that I do have the very early sort of expanding, I guess, the econ with the multiple generators. That's also one of the strengths of the Necrons. They don't rely on the requisition points, so they can actually get right into it and macro up very hard with the generators. Now that's good because normally the stronghold missions give you 2 or at max 3 requisition points, which gives the Necrons a better ability to macro up than other races. But their lack of great vehicles means that they will be having problems in late game, which is basically where all of the campaign is, or at least when I play them. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the warriors out. Another thing is, since we're playing on hard, I will be focusing mainly on building the bases in each of the skirmishes. That will allow me to get defensive victories more easily. And I feel like that's sort of a requirement at this point. So right now the first mission, we are going to be dealing with one chaos base spawning on the left side of the map. I'll be taking care of that later after I have completed my macro. So as for Necrons, the strongholds that I'm expecting difficulties at is of course the Tau stronghold and the Eldar stronghold. That's just because the Eldar stronghold have an unlimited number of fire prisms in their base, and you know how those things tend to sort of scatter your infantry everywhere. So it's very hard to break up that ramp, which is one way to end the mission. The second way is of course to go for a 15-minute capture, which is also not exactly an easy feat, but I will be going for that since it's easier than breaking up that ramp. Now that basically involves dividing our units amongst 3 different locations, and I feel like we should be able to split our immortals out in a sufficient manner. So actually we'll be putting down some turrets. That's of course just to get the defensive victories a little bit more easily. Now another thing that's bad about the Necrons is of course the centralized production, like Zerg. This means that the monolith is basically the structure that's responsible for creating every single unit in the game. Now this is bad for defensive victories because it will give you 1 production possibilities, whereas the other races usually have their vehicle producing building out and also the infantry producing building out. So I'll probably be forced to build 2 monoliths in every single base, or in every single place that I conquer. It's a little bit on the annoying side, but really, what can you do? Sort of a thing for playing Necrons. Now, I don't exactly think this is going to be under attack anytime soon, but later on, the defensive victories do spawn another base out here, so I guess it wouldn't be a complete waste to put down a turret here. What I'll also be doing is, of course, getting this generator. It does give you a plus 40 in terms of your power income, whereas these only give you plus 10, so it's definitely a good investment. Another thing is that these generators, I believe, will fix themselves at the end of every single battle. So what I mean by that is that generators do degrade over time, and every single time you do a new defensive victory, I think all the generators turn from their whatever degraded state into their full state at green, giving you plus 10 power without upgrades. Now the unfortunate side of that is that we don't have any upgrades for these plus power when we start those defensive victories, so it's a little bit on the annoying side there. And I guess something else annoying is that the Necron monolith, the relic unit, is actually really bad. It's good at scattering infantry, but really we're not exactly worried about infantry. Kind of worried about anti-vehicle, although the Immortals themselves do have a good ability to destroy vehicles. Now the first mission is of course not difficult, but I will be taking the time to construct everything and just talk about what I'll be doing in the campaign. I'm going to be getting the Warriors +1 and also learning how to play the game again. Not exactly very good with Dawn of War. Like I said before, I never actually played any games against the people, so don't know how that works. Doesn't really matter. Now, something good about the Necron turrets is that the first state, usually the other races, not including Tau is actually the other exception, and Eldar to a certain extent. The Necron turrets are actually really good after they're upgraded. If you think about Imperial Guard and Space Marines, after you upgrade the turrets, they turn the standard sort of bolt turret into a missile turret, which makes it better against vehicles but really shitty against the infantry. Necron turrets just get a flat damage boost and also armor penetration, so it's really good against infantry even after the upgrade. In fact, sometimes I upgrade these turrets just for their boost in their damage against infantry. Downside is of course the listening posts. When you upgrade them first, they don't get any static defense. They'll only get one ability that's usually not enough to kill anyone. So you will need those units in order to do that. As for something else that I'll be doing, first of all, I'll get the monolith up. I will be doing a lot of cheesy play because I do have so many restrictions. No extra units, no sort of global ability on there, so I will be doing cheesy shit like getting this structure here, the energy core, getting some Nightbringer cheese, getting some Flayed Ones Rush cheese, and just general garbage like that. Well, that is after I learned how to play the game. So I'm going to be getting lots of that, and I'm going to be getting the power upgrade. As you can see, I'm just macroing up a lot at this point, apparently maxing out in generators already. I didn't think we could max out that fast, but apparently we did. So just going to be fortifying the forward defenses. They might come out here, so I might as well upgrade this one as well, considering how I do have the power. 2 monolith is going to give us the production that we require. Now, something else about the Necrons is that their power generators do become slower to make every single time, so even if one generator degrades and you delete it, trying to remake that is going to take an eternity and a half. I don't think that's designed well, but what do I know about this game? I don't exactly play at a level where you play against people. Now, I'm sort of debating whether I should get a second set of turrets, but I feel like for this location it's going to be a little bit of an overkill, considering how I will be taking the Chaos Stronghold first, which will render this location rather safe. So we do have our warriors ready. Kind of forgot my hotkey layout. Picking up the extra monolith right there. Getting a second monolith also prevents your main monolith from dying and eliminating you from the game, so that's good to have. My usual army composition is 2 squads of warriors and 2 squads of immortals, and also the Necron Lord. As for stuff to get from the Forbidden Archives, I like to get the Phylactery, I like to get the Resurrection Orb, and also the Veil of Darkness. I don't actually like the Nightmare Shroud because it makes units run away, and what we want to do is kill them and not run away. I also like to get 1 squad of Pariahs to supplement the Necron Lord, and just generally break faces that way. So let's go ahead and get their 2nd level power upgrade, even though we don't quite need that. Now in terms of Necron vehicles, the Tomb Spider is actually really good as a support caster to revive our units. Downside to that is the support does not actually have any, like it creates new squads based on what ability you're using, so it doesn't exactly fill up your entire squad, which makes it suboptimal, but it's still an ability that's great, and I would of course use it. Not exactly a big fan of Flayed Ones in battle, just because they're a little bit on the slow side. So I am making a 2nd squad of Immortals. getting the power core. I should get the energy core, although not really that important. Now the reason I'm saying that is because I won't be using the global power boost, so I won't be able to afford a relic unit's monolith at the beginning. So the power core is not really useful. And the Nightbringer upgrade does cost a lot of power as well, which means that we won't be able to get the Nightbringer really early as well. But I will still get it just for shits and giggles. So now we do have our production up, we have all of these upgrades up, and I think we're ready to move out. This is basically our composition that I like. As you can see, it's lacking any vehicles because vehicles are generally crap. Tomb Spiders, as not a support but as a damage dealer, is also great because it does have that AoE attack and also deals very, very heavy damage. So that's going to be great. As you can see, the Necron army is actually incredibly slow. Nothing really you can do about that. I think the hotkey for this is J for jump. So I am forcing Chaos back, and it seems like I do have the cloak upgrade for my Necron Lord. Another thing I will be using is, of course, I will be getting the upgrade for the Necron Lords in terms of war gear. I feel like that's not something that we can sort of skip. I guess if we really wanted to, we can skip it. So there's Micro the Immortals back. Seems like the Raptors are being forced back, and it seems like the whole army is actually here. Seems like we allowed them to macro up just a little bit too much. Maybe adding on another squad of warriors is a good idea. But we do have the Pariah, so this should actually be fine. In terms of the Chaos Space Marines, I kind of want to get rid of the ones that have the ability, or to have the heavy weapons upgrade, so this is actually getting sort of destroyed. Oh, that's unfortunate. That's actually because these guys are sort of retard magneting on the turret. That's actually the Immortals' job, considering how they deal no damage to infantry. Seems like they are having problems with the warriors right now, which is great. What we're gonna do now that we have power is we will revive 2 Tomb Spiders and use them for the attack. In terms of destroyers, not exactly a big fan of those. Just going to micro the broken squad back a little bit so they can regenerate. And also regenerate units as well. So, not exactly a big fan of these because they're basically one warrior. And I feel like one squad of warriors actually outdamage one destroyer quite a bit. So I'm gonna pick up the Nightbringer's upgrade just because we have nothing else to spend that resource on. Now the good thing about the campaign is that the campaign does give you, like, yes, the opponent will out macro you by capturing a lot of points, but their army composition is actually not that great. And also their units aren't really, they don't really max out fully, so you can sort of take advantage of that and attack when you yourself is maxed out for a best, I guess, comparative advantage over them. And my Tomb Spider should be alive now, so that's good. Let's add them to the control group 3. Seems like the warriors are sort of dying. Now I forgot if your auto reinforce will actually still kick in after your squad is full. Let's not get the Immortals out there. Immortals should not be tanking. This is not StarCraft. Although StarCraft Immortals should not be tanking either. Immortals are just bad. Unless of course you're talking about the 8 Immortal hit squad. Which is just 8 Immortals in warp prisms, which you use to completely annihilate buildings and leave. It's a thing I do in team games. Because I can't take that shit seriously. Anything involving not 1v1s is basically determined not by your ability to play the game, but by how much bullshit is happening. So I have no respect if you tell me you're a diamond 3v3 but a bronze 1v1. I will always think that your true rank is your rank in 1v1s. So I don't actually know if there's anything else we could build. I mean, we could get a second or a third monolith, but that's sort of pointless at this point. We could be building flayed ones. I mean, they are automatically deep struck into the base. I don't know if Control Group 0 actually works in this game. Again, I haven't played Dawn of War in a while, so I'm very not familiar with the things. I do remember that one thing you could do is you could teleport your monolith in, and then you could teleport a bunch of Necron warriors into the monolith. That is if you get the relic monolith. It's not the standard monolith. So that's one way to get an army into a base quickly. Another is of course deep struck flayed ones. So let's just do that. Now the problem with flayed ones is that, first of all, they're not reinforced when you first build them. You can sort of get around that by deep striking them right outside your base after you construct them, reinforcing them and then loading them back in. But it still means that they're going to take a while to build. And they're not exactly ready when you want them. So we do have the Tomb Spider here, which also deals significant amount of morale damage, which is great. It means those things will suck at shooting, and that is supplemented by the presence of the flayed ones as well. And I guess this will wrap it up because we only have one opponent. So I guess that concludes the first Dawn of War Necron campaign. Thanks for watching. I will only be uploading the Stronghold victories from now on, unless of course there's a request to upload everything. So that's what's going to be happening, and it seems like there's a squad of Chaos Marines thinking they can take on a vehicle. That's cute. Apparently the Sorcerer is back alive, but doesn't really matter at this point. Flayed ones are actually exceptionally great at killing these commanders. Now I think we actually get a war gear on our first conquest. Of course we do. In terms of war gear choices, I do like to get detection first. I forgot which one that actually is. Death Mask, I think. Reveals infiltrated units and increases health. Yes, I will be getting that. That's going to be one of our only ways of detection, because the only other two methods of detection for Necrons are 1, Scarabs, and 2, Wraith, both of which I never really make. Well, I make Scarabs, but I keep the Scarabs in the base. So I'll pick up the Death Mask right now. And that wraps it up for the first Dawn of War. Thanks for watching. Post your comments, requests, anything you want in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.